Hi, Mark. Yeah, it is Tuesday, February the 17th at 9:15 a.m. Eastern, 2:15 p.m. GMT. US session well underway and going into the afternoon portion of the European session. Let's have a look at the US dollar, starting on the US dollar index, and you can see a strong start to the US demand for US dollars. This morning we saw it through the Asian European session, and at this point continuing into the US session. I've got support at 96.97, and I've got resistance at 97.30, and that resistance level being tested now. We'll see how that plays out once Wall Street opens up in about 15 minutes, and we'll see how US dollar performance continues and if demand for US dollar continues through the US session. Let's have a look at the majors, starting on the Euro US. There you can see US strengthening against the euro for the sixth consecutive day and testing support right now. I've got resistance at 118.50. I've got support at 118.13. Selling euro, buying US dollars. We'll see whether that does continue or whether there's going to be a turnaround from strong US to weak US and a bounce up off this level. Buyers would be looking up at the 118.15 resistance level. But in keeping with the index, as we saw, same thing, Euro US, we see strong US dollar as the US session gets underway. Let's have a look at the pound. Very similar picture, testing support right now. Support that it tested beginning of the month as well, unsuccessfully. We'll see whether this time it can continue. I've got resistance at 136.26, and I've got support at 136.23. Already 100 pips is the move. We have to watch for average true range, but that's already at the full range for the day. We'll see whether that can continue. If US dollar strength continues, perhaps just hang around this support level, or a turnaround from strong to weak US dollar, and buyers would look to bounce up off this support level. US against the yen. Different picture here. Here we can see this wick left behind on this red candlestick, meaning this was a full red candlestick earlier, which would be selling US buying yen, so weak US against the yen, but US certainly fighting its way back from this support level at 152.60. And if you go back over the past few days, you can see it is a significant level that it bounced up off the US. And now looking up at resistance at 153.63. We'll see whether US dollar strength can continue and break above this resistance area, which also has been tested 3 of the past 4 days, tested again today, being tested, and we'll see whether that can continue. Bear in mind the Bank of Japan intervention talks, I believe, is what holds up this US dollar strength just that little bit. And the fact that, as opposed to the European currencies where we've seen US dollar strength all through from the start, not the case here, and US dollar having to fight its way back. US dollar against the Canadian. We're seeing strong US dollar for the fifth consecutive day. Higher highs, higher lows. I've got support at 136.34, and I've got resistance at 136.78. Buyers looking to test break above that level, perhaps see if they can get to the $1.37 level. Strong buying US and selling Canadian. If there's going to be a turnaround again from strong to weak US dollar, sellers of US, buyers of Canadian would look to bounce down off this area around the 136.78, looking back down at the 136.34 support level. So going into today's session, strong US dollar. We saw slight gains with the US across the board yesterday, even though markets were closed yesterday on the in the US, the public holiday, but still US dollar held its own. And today making gains across the board again. We can see that, and we'll see how that plays out through the rest of the US session. Resistance and support levels all being tested now on the majors and even on the index. We'll see if that is maintained, whether we see a break above or below the relative levels or a bounce off those levels. Good trading, and I'll see you at the end of the day.